Hey there, Booktube. I'm here with a special edition. The Friends of the Library book sale happened. You know what happens when the Friends of the Library book sale happens? This stack over here comes home with me. So I'm going to do a Friends of the Library book haul. There will be a regular July book haul and a July wrap-up. And I'm just going to put my Booktube-a-thon in my July wrap-up, because I figured that's the best way to work it for me, so that there's I'd rather have 3 than 4, basically, is what I'm saying. So let's jump right on into the things that I bought. I've got 3 stacks going on here. They're kind of all over the place. My mother was visiting and now she's gone and I am sad, so I'm doing a book haul, because that's what you do. And she actually brought me books which are going to show up in the July book haul. Anywho, let's get right into it. We have Elizabeth Gaskell's Wives and Daughters, the Penguin Classics edition. I haven't read any Gaskell. I have North and South, and I believe I have her biography of Charlotte Bronte, but I have never read this, and it says equaled only by Jane Austen and George Eliot. Well, I don't like Austen, but I sure do like George Eliot, so I hope she leans towards that. Honestly, I picked it up because it was 50 cents. It's in great condition for a paperback, and it's something I would be interested in reading. The other thing I picked up that is kind of out of order, but I'm fine with it because, again, 50 cents and in great condition, was the book 1 in the Tawny Man trilogy, Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. Now, I do want to read so I want to read the Live Ship Traders before I do the Tawny Man. I know I'm going to read the Tawny Man. Husband and I have already said we're going to do it as a book club together, so I figured picking it up for 50 cents, it can wait until we're done the Live Ship Traders. I have no problem stocking up because, let's face it, you know, life happens and then you can't buy a bunch of stuff. So, let's see here. Starting at the top, working our way down. Those are the 2 paperbacks. Everything else I paid $1 for, and I really don't think that's a big heartache. I got The Portable Veblen by Elizabeth Mackenzie. It did make its round on Booktube. I've seen it in a few different places. It's a penguin. So, floating into her 30s, Veblen is an amateur translator and freelance self. Her fiancé Paul is a brilliant neurologist whose research has led to a high-stakes military contract. As he gets swept up by the promise of fame and fortune, Veblen heroically keeps the peace between all the damaged parties involved in their upcoming wedding, until she finds herself falling for someone or something else. Featuring hippie parents, big pharma, and a late 19th century economist, and something called the pneumatic turbo skull punch, The Portable Veblen asks, where do our families end and we begin? How do we really stay true to our ideals? And what is that squirrel really thinking? Who the heck knows what that squirrel is really thinking? But I like squirrels. And of course, I've got my Friends of the Library thing, so I know the next one is October 21st. Because, like a crack addict, they want to keep me coming back. I picked up The Sellout, which is the winner of the Man Booker Prize by Paul Beatty. I don't know what year it won the Man Booker Prize. Born in the agrarian ghetto of Dickens on the southern outskirts of Los Angeles, the narrator of The Sellout spent his childhood as the subject in racially charged psychological studies and has since resigned himself to the fate of lower middle-class Californians. Not a big fan of reading about California. I don't know why. It's not my bag. But then again, I'm not sold on New York either. I tend to read Midwest stuff, or stuff that takes place not in the United States. But this could be very good. I hope it's very good. Fueled by this deceit. Oh, his father's killed in a police shootout. Okay. Apparently Oprah had something to say about this too. Apparently I should care, because NPR says I should care. So, it's short. It's put out by Picador. This one looked interesting to me because it's got a really cross-eyed looking buffalo on the front. It's called Eyewitness to the American West. It's 500 Years of First-Hand History, edited by David Colbert, or Colbert, depending on how you say it. I've been trained. See, look at the little cross-eyed buffalo. Okay? You would buy it too for the cross-eyed buffalo. So, this is basically a bunch of letters that were written during, I believe, the migration to the West. For 5 centuries, Americans have looked to the West as a source of inspiration, innovation, fortune, and freedom. But what exactly is the West, and why does it draw us so? This collection of letters, diary passages, interviews, and public writing from people who were in the right place at the right time chronicles the history of the West, both as a place and a state of mind, from 1519, when the Aztecs first encountered Spanish conquistadors, up to present day and the explosive growth of Silicon Valley. Sounds right up my alley. Love me some first-hand accounts. Just saying. Picked up this guy. Don't know what it's going to be like, but Lewis and Clark Among the Indians by James P. Rhonda. This was put out by the University of Nebraska Press. It's very clearly a textbook of some kind. Like, you would see these, like, I would call these ethnographies. Like, if you found them in an anthropological setting, usually you'd get an ethnography and it looks like this. So I'm interested to see how this works out. It doesn't say what genre it comes from. Description and travel, exploring expedition, Indians of North America, first contact. I have no idea what the goal of this is, but drawing from journals and other documents, it's a compelling narrative of the expedition's encounter with the Indians. Is a story of discovery and suspense, told with modern concern to understand the Indian side as well as the white in the meeting of two cultures. Okay, thank you for that. Either way, it'll be an interesting read for me. I picked this one up. It's Folklore and Native American Studies, American Indians, Myths, and Legends, selected and edited by Richard Erdoes and Alfonso Ortiz from the Pantheon Fairy Tale and Folklore Library. This one's been ridden hard and put away wet. Came out in 1984. Do we have pictures of the authors? Do I get to see what they look like? I'm always intrigued to see. No author pictures. We have an appendix that explains the various kinds of Indians, and 160 tales from 80 tribal groups. This is all American, though. This is nothing Canadian, which is very different from what I'm used to reading. This is put up by Pantheon. I like the cover. It's cute. But like I said, it's got some dings, it's got some wear, it's been beaten, pages are marked. I don't care. I picked up Canada by Richard Ford. I'll be honest, I didn't even read the back. I just saw that it said Canada. This does take place in North Dakota and Montana. And apparently California. Maybe I'm just into California right now. A profound novel of boundaries traversed, innocence, lost, and reconciled, and the mysterious and consoling bonds of family. Told in spare, elegant prose, both resonant and luminous, it is destined to become a classic. Well, for something destined to become a classic, I've never heard of it, so tell me if that's classic. A novel by the winner of the Pulitzer Prize, not that this won the Pulitzer Prize. Oprah.com gave it a blurb. But I'll give it a try. Why not? Animal Dreams by Barbara Kingsolver, which I recall I read when I was much younger and absolutely remember nothing. But I do like Barbara Kingsolver. The Poisonwood Bible, The Lacuna. Poisonwood Bible is like the be-all and end-all of her work to me. But the interesting thing is, I actually have yarn that I bought based off the cover. It's not based off of this cover, I think it's based off the older cover that has like a painting on it, but still, I think it would be interesting to knit the socks and read the book at the same time. Is this about turtle? Or is it the bean trees that's about turtle? No, this one is Cody Nolan. And Arizona. Very Arizona. Don't know how I feel about that, but hey, what can I say? Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff, which was a National Book Award finalist. I've heard good things about this. It's about a marriage. And I'm sure everyone has heard the plot. Every story has two sides, every relationship two perspectives. Sometimes it turns out the key to a great marriage is not its truths, but its secrets. Profound, surprising, propulsive, and emotionally riveting, it stirs both the mind and the heart. So I'm going to wait a while for this because I don't need any stirring right about now. But it did receive a lot of acclaim, so I'm interested in seeing if it'll play out the way I want it to. I have no idea if this is a good book, but it looked entertaining to me. It's Ordinary Men, Reserve Police Battalion 101 and the Final Solution in Poland, because that looks interesting. How a unit of average middle-aged Germans became the cold-blooded murderers of 10,000 Jews, with a new afterword by Christopher R. Browning, and the author's reply to Daniel Goldhagen. New York Times blurbed it, Newsweek's blurbed it. I don't really care. It's put out by Harbor Perennial. I just tend to read a lot of stuff about World War II. So, it's your World War II quotient. One sec, I gotta move these. The one side is getting bigger than the other, so I gotta push and move, or I'm gonna end up hurting myself reaching over everything. Okay, up next is The Warrior Queens by Antonia Fraser, the legend and lives of the women who led their nations in war, because that's friggin' awesome, and I love a good, powerful woman. Margaret Atwood blurbed this, Chicago Sun-Times, The New Yorker. Do I really care? Did Steve Donahue blurb this? For some reason I could see him up in this business. Antonia Fraser wrote many books about the Queen of Scots, Cromwell, King James, Royal Charles, the wives of Henry VIII, so very into Tudor stuff. I think it's going to be really nice. I think it's going to be a really fun read, even though it's about war. Women leading people into war just sounds like something I should have learned a long time ago. And it was $1. The premise of a lot of things I bought at this thing were it was $1 and no one was stopping me. So the other one I picked up was The Lowland by Jhumpa Lahiri, mostly because it's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. I've heard many good things about Jhumpa Lahiri. I haven't read any of her work, but I have now collected 3 of her books, I believe. I have The Namesake, I have The Interpreter of Maladies, and this one. So I better read some of her and decide if I actually like it. I picked up All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. I actually bought the second one at the previous Friends of the Library book sale, so now I have both of them, and I can read them, although now I'm starting to wonder if I even want to read them, because I've heard I've heard both good and bad things, so I guess I'll give this one a go. Hold on a sec. I'll give this one a go and see how I like it. Tells the tale of young John Grady Cole, the last of a long line of Texas ranchers. Across the border, Mexico beckons, beautiful and desolate, rugged and cruelly civilized. With 2 companions, he sets off on an idyllic, sometimes comic adventure to a place where dreams are paid for in blood. I don't read Louis L'Amour. I don't read cowboy fiction. This may not be a good idea for me. My husband has read a lot of cowboy fiction, possibly because he grew up in Utah, and that seems to be a thing. But let me tell you, First Nations people, we tend not to read cowboy fiction, because cowboys and Indians is not a positive thing for us. But if you like it, more power to you. I don't think it's outwardly racist. I've never read any, so I can't tell you if it's horribly racist or not, but it's just, on the whole, most of the First Nations people, Aboriginal, Native American, whatever you want to call us, most of the ones I know don't like reading cowboy fiction, unless it's Native cowboys. And that is a whole different ball of wax. Then I picked up these. And I question why I did it, except that I have the first 2 and the last 2 for $2. So if I actually want to continue on with the series, then I have them all, because there's 4, right? And it's Those Who Leave and Those Who Stay, and The Story of the Lost Child, both by Elena Ferrante. And I mean, I could pay $18 a piece. I wouldn't pay $18 a piece, but I could get them secondhand. But seriously, for $1 a piece, I had to do it. Because what if I read the first one and I really like it? Now, I know some people have read it and have been like, I'm not touching the next book. This was pure trash, pure tripe. Lauren in the books, she friggin' hated it. But then you, well, what's her name? I can see her face. She always reads horror, not big bad books. Not Becky Ford. Becky Ford was the one I forgot before. Crap. Well, either way. A booktuber I watch, who shall remain nameless, has long dark hair and likes reading a lot of horror stuff, also enjoys reading a lot of family drama, and is very into the Neapolitan novels, and liked Elena Ferrante. And I don't necessarily need to have the biggest plots, so long as it is written well. So I will give that a shot. The last thing I picked up, which is from Algonquin Books, is The Girl Who Fell from the Sky. It's the winner of the Bellwether Prize for Fiction. In the aftermath of family tragedy, a biracial girl must cope with society's ideas of race and class in this acclaimed novel, winner of the Bellwether Prize for Fiction, addressing the issue of social justice. That really is not enough for me to go off of. And then we've just got blurby, blurby, blurby blurbs. Although the Christian Science Monitor, Steve, was this you? Not that Steve watches my channel, but says, stunning, what makes Duro's novel soar is her masterful sense of voice, her assured, nuanced handling of complex racial issues, and her heart. So, if that in fact was Steve Donahue, then I was right in picking this up, because for the most part, he hasn't steered me wrong yet. Barbara Kingsolver liked it. Anyone else I actually care about? Bookslut.com. I don't even know how I feel about Bookslut.com. But this could be interesting. It could be very interesting. I am currently working through a pile in my room. I have the pile of things I want to finish by the end of the year. I have the pile of read-alongs. August, I'm going to be doing Bronte, Jane Eyre with my husband. Was it September? I'm doing the Cancer Ward with Biblio Atlas. I can't remember if it's August or September. I have to double check. By Alexander Solskin. And there is the Kindle readathon I want to do, but I've totally sucked at the Booktube-a-thon, so I have no idea anymore. However, that has absolutely nothing to do with the haul. So this is my haul from the Friends of the Library. I'm keeping it open. I'm keeping it going. I'm pushing the scanners out of the way because, man, they're rude. But I think I scored. I also scored a handful of fantasy, sci-fi stuff for my husband that I think he'll enjoy. And yeah. So I will see you probably tomorrow. Bye, Booktube.